Dungeons & Dragons features a great tension between the forces of good and evil, and between law and chaos. These alignments cover a lot. Sometimes they are instincts or innate drives. Sometimes they are philosophical or religious orientations. Sometimes they are extensions of personality. 5th edition D&D downplays the alignments in many ways, which I regard as a mistake, but that is a topic for another video. What we are focusing on specifically here are demons. Demons and the demon lords. They're some of the most evil creatures in the game. Specifically, they are chaotic evil. And I mean chaotic evil to the maximum. They are incarnations of destruction, disorientation, entropy, brutality, corruption, and degradation. They have no mercy and no compassion whatsoever. Demons are spawned from the infinite layers of the abyss, a nightmare plane from which they spontaneously form. There, they battle one another for wicked dominance, and they burn with the desire to invade upon other realms. Their end goal is to consume all of existence and bring about total annihilation in one form or another. While demons all share a lot in common, they also have some amount of variation in their specific forms and behaviors. Beyond the hordes of demonkind, there are also the demon lords, terrifying monster kings and queens, each one ruling a layer of the abyss. But what kind of demon is the most evil? Which of the demon lords is the most vile of them all? I'm going to look at the 5e bestiaries, attempting the difficult task of determining which demons are the most malevolent. Bear in mind, please, it's not really feasible to cover every single demon in the game, but I will include a good sampling. Then I will go on to focus on the demon lords, again, those that we have so far in 5e. Ready your protection from evils and your paladin smites, as we are going to take a close look at the demonic fiends of D&D, with the bewildering task of determining which of them is foulest of them all. Before we jump in, this bard wants to inspire you to strike the like button and to subscribe. Don't linger in the pre-adventure tavern, trembling in fear of the abyssal horrors that lurk within the dark dungeon. Join the party, adventure with me on a quest to confront the terrors and win glorious treasures. First up, we have the minor demons. Examples of these include the Abyssal Chicken, Dretch, Mains, Maw Demon, and Quasite. Themes here are very low intelligence, crude, limited, minions, and slaves. These are the most basic and simplistic demons, but they're still very nasty things. They are chaotic evil to the core, and they have an instinct to spread malice and disorder and violence wherever they go. But they don't have personal agency. They're little more than monstrous animals. The exception here is the Quasite, which is slightly more intelligent, though it's still not that bright. It's still really no more than a messenger or a minor stealth agent that gets bossed around by virtually all other demons. Or it might actually serve as a familiar to a warlock or some other dark mage. Going one step more evil, we come across the demonic brutes. Examples here include the Armanite, Barlgura, Goristro, Hezro, Shusuva, and Vrak. Themes include low intelligence, crude, shock troops, and ragers. The brutes have a bit more agency than the minor demons, but only because they're bigger and stronger. They are rampaging forces of carnage who seek to pillage, to break, to slay, and devour. They can be quite powerful. The Armanites at CR 7, the Shusuva and the Hezro are at CR 8, and the Goristro is at a tremendous CR 17. But their simplistic natures makes their variety of chaotic evil rather straightforward. Screaming hordes and frenzying reavers, fueled by lust for carnage and destruction, but at least you know what they are. You know what they're going to do. Next, we have the Abyssal Spawners. Examples include the Alkalith and the Sybriex. Themes here are spawning point, unique abilities, stationary, and spreading corruption. The Alkalith and the Sybriex are rather unique demons. They're actually two of my personal favorites. The Alkalith is like a sentient patch of mold that clings to a door, a window, or some other mundane portal, and it transforms it into a magical portal to the abyss from which demons can spill through. The Sybriex is a massive floating grotesquerie of demonic flesh that is chained in place. It is extremely intelligent, with only the demon lord Fraz-Urb'luu being more intelligent. It spawns various kinds of demons, and it grafts demonic parts onto non-demon creatures. Some people even seek out a Sybriex for valuable information and forbidden secrets, as they are some of the most knowledgeable of lore keepers in the D&D world. While the Sybriex and the Alkalith do have many differences between each other, their similarities are even more so. Instead of being roving agents of destruction, they stick to one spot, spreading abyssal influence, and through them, many other demons appear. Going another rung lower into evil, we have the terrifying commanders. Examples are the Balor, the Merilith, and the Nalfeshni. Themes here are evil leaders, extremely powerful combatants, and smart tacticians. These kinds of greater demons occupy a rung just below the demon lords in terms of their power and their status. The amount of bloodshed and depravity that occurs at their command is far beyond many other kinds of demons. The Nalfeshni is a big, strong brute, yet it is deceptively intelligent. It's a warped mockery of nobility, dining on human flesh in stained and rusting feasting halls. The Merilith is a very stylish demon that is able to rally and lead groups of otherwise disorganized demons. She's particularly deadly in close combat, and I shudder to think of the incredible amount of slaughter and battle she has done in order to hone her fighting prowess. The Balor is a general. It drives forth abyssal armies, wielding epic elemental weapons. Few creatures compare to its sheer fury and unlimited rage. The swaths of destruction wrought by Balors are staggering in scope. I'm sure many lesser kinds of demons would commit the mass-scale killing and devastation of these terrifying commanders, but if only they could. For whatever reason, the lesser demons just don't have the motivation or the ability or the raw malicious power of these greater demons. One step fouler, we come across the Mockeries of Life. Examples here are the Dybbuk and the Maurezi. Themes are demon undead, putrescence, vile desecration, profaning life itself, and abhorrent manipulation of society. These are rarer kinds of demons, and they inflict deep psychological and societal harm in addition to the wholesale slaughter and havoc that are the hallmarks of all demons. They corrupt, pervert, and hijack life itself. It's not enough for them to simply kill and devour and wreck structures. These mockeries of life wreak havoc upon the very fabric of existence. They twist the natural forces of life and death into something rotten, something to be abused, degraded, desecrated. They use their victims' bodies and appearances like meat puppets, committing all manner of heinous acts. They might take over the identity of the head of a household, then commit horrific acts that I dare not even utter. Or they might assume the body of, say, a lord or a king, then give commands for soldiers to commit atrocities. The betrayal and the treachery and the outright gleeful mocking of life is an offense to all that is good and sacred. This calls to mind my recent video about the most evil dragons in D&D, and the demons such as the Dybbuk and the Maurezi are like the unholy combination of the worst aspects of green dragons, black dragons, and dracoliches. It's just revolting. I pray that clerics, paladins, and good-hearted adventurers of all kinds strike down these most putrid of demons. More than strike down, they must be seared away from the cosmos by celestial radiance. Blech. But as utterly horrid as the Mockeries of Life are, there is still one kind of demon that I think represents evil on an even deeper level. The spiritual Annihilator. The only example I have found here is the Nabasu. The themes are deceit and treachery and destroyer of souls. The Nabasu is a monster that you might overlook or even underestimate. I think part of that comes from the creature's appearance. It's a medium-sized, fairly typical-looking demon. But this creature is actually challenge rating 15, and it travels the plains, devouring souls. The somewhat unremarkable appearance is likely part of the Nabasu's plan, as they often pose as lesser demons in an effort to get summoned by spellcasters into the world. Upon arriving, they devour the caster's soul, then go on to rove about seeking more victims so that it can devour their souls. And at this high of a challenge rating and power, it's going to be able to slay a lot. The vast majority of beings, really. And in the case that it cannot convince the spellcaster to summon it to begin with, it will extort or manipulate the caster into supplying it with a steady flow of sacrificial victims so that it still can go on to devour souls. This monster is an outcast among demons, which is really saying a lot. If the most vile group of creatures in all of existence shun you, you have got to be twisted beyond all imagination. This hate is drawn from the fact that Nabasus devour any souls, even those of demons, even those of fellow Nabasus. Now let's stop for a moment and consider what we're actually talking about when it comes to devouring souls. A soul is a spiritual being, the spiritual side of a creature. It's what gives it life force, patterns, depth, meaning, and a connection to existence. Souls are created by the divine and are sacred and of immense value, perhaps even inestimable value. The law of the cosmos functions such that when a being with a soul dies, as in their body dies, their soul passes on to an afterlife, such as the plane of the god they served. Souls have a sort of untouchable quality. It takes an epic amount of power and authority to be able to affect souls. A Nabasu can consume souls, destroying them, drawing power from them. With virtually all other demons, it is awful, yes, terrible how they will kill you and do any kind of horrific thing to you. But after the physical and psychological agony ends, and you die, you, the soul, move on to your spiritual life, which in the grand scheme of things is actually primary, considering that your worldly life only lasted some decades, or maybe some centuries for a creature like an elf. But your spiritual afterlife is eternal. Even if you were brutalized and made into a flesh puppet by a Dybbuk or a Maurezi, what does it matter compared to the immortal existence within your god's own realm? But the Nabasu takes that away from you. It not only kills you, it kills your very soul. It is the utmost act of evil violence that one could commit, slaying both the material nature and the spiritual nature. You are wiped away from all of existence. And just to add insults to ultimate injury, your corpse becomes a ghoul under the command of the Nabasu. How it is that Nabasus have this ability is a great and dark mystery, for this type of reality-shattering power is extremely rare. I can think of nothing that is more wrong than this when it comes to the standard kinds of demons, so I brand the Nabasu the most evil of the kinds of demons. And now we turn to the demon lords, those that have seen publication thus far in 5e at least. I have organized them into a ranking going from the least evil to the most evil. Well, they're all terribly evil, so I guess we're going from terribly evil to the most terribly evil. So let's have a look at the demon lords here. The first is Juiblex, the faceless lord, the oozing hunger. Juiblex is a mass of bubbling slime with perhaps the most potent acid in all the cosmos. He does not maintain any complex schemes or any kinds of ambitious plots. He exists only to consume and expand. Yes, he is thoroughly chaotic evil, but things can be much worse than this, which we're going to see presently. Fraz-Urb'luu, the Prince of Deception, the Demon Lord of Illusions. Fraz-Urb'luu is the most intelligent of all demons. He essentially is the polar opposite of Juiblex in that he is all about tricks, schemes, and ploys. His appearance is similar to a huge demonic gargoyle, though he can take on any form that he wants, anything that serves his purpose. His webs and his schemes run far and wide, an unfathomable tangle of knots that span the plains over. If you really want to question it, I suppose he could be the least evil of all demons, or maybe he could be the most evil, and we just really cannot be completely sure. I guess it's possible that he is secretly aligned with a god, or maybe he's not even a demon. He's using some kind of legendary magic to be perceived as a demon. But this is all a rabbit hole. We just have to judge him by what deeds are known, what has been confirmed to have been perpetrated by Fraz-Urb'luu, so he certainly rates as deeply chaotic evil, though really he is not the worst of all the demon lords. Graz'zt. In a somewhat similar vein is Graz'zt, the Dark Prince, the Lord of Forbidden Pleasures. He also prefers trickery and appearance changing. Particularly, he prefers forms of decadence and luxury. He promotes hedonism, depravity, greed, lust, really debauchery of the foulest sorts. Graz'zt is the most devil-like of all the demon lords, in that he uses manipulation and seduction foremost. He lures in victims with promises of wealth and lavishness and all the attractive trappings and appearances, but he is a rotten thing with a hideous heart that loathes kindness and all that is good. He fantasizes about all of society crumbling away due to the corruption he sows. Zuggtmoy, the demon queen of fungi, the lady of rot and decay. She also fantasizes about the collapse of civilization and the end of the world, but not through sinful pleasures, but through infection with fungus. Why let people feel pleasure on their way to the apocalypse? No, let them suffer horribly as molds and spores overtake them, turning them into shambling drones commanded by this alien-like fungus queen. Yeenoghu. This demon lord resembles a giant monstrous gnoll, and indeed his titles are the Gnoll Lord and the Beast of Butchery. But it would be more accurate to say that gnolls resemble Yeenoghu, for their race formed when hyenas scavenged from the carcasses Yeenoghu left in his wake when he managed a devastating incursion into the world long ago. This vile demon lord desires that the world become a mass of slaughter and destruction. Let all that dwell upon the material plane die in crazed, total warfare and wanton destruction of civilization. and may they experience as much fear and terror as possible before they die. Baphomet. The rival of Yeenoghu is Baphomet, who bears some similarities. He is known as the Horned King and Prince of Beasts. He represents the very worst sides of vicious animals, twisted and corrupted, burning for primal hedonism and bloodthirsty brutality. His cults build labyrinths and other secret arenas and temples, and there they take part in appalling evil rites that shall not be described here. They involve the most horrendous acts of depravity possible. His most devoted followers receive his dark blessing and are transformed into minotaurs. It's a close call between him and Yeenoghu, as they both want the world reduced to slaughter and ruin. But I say Baphomet is a hair fouler, as he is more cunning, more subversive, and he promotes a wider variety of atrocities. Demogorgon, the prince of demons, the master of the spiraling depths. It is hard to imagine a more evil foe than Demogorgon. Often considered the mightiest of all demon lords, he is an avatar of chaos, deformation, and destruction. He appears as a gigantic tentacled monster with two mandrill baboon heads. While he has some similarities with Baphomet and Yeenoghu in that he provokes primal, rage-fueled slaughter and wicked ruination of society, he takes things a step further. His ultimate goal is the complete annihilation of the world and beyond. He wants it all to be swallowed up by the abyss and for existence itself to cease. This drive is found within his two heads, Amul and Hethrodaya, which loathe and fight against one another, as they cannot stand to be bound together. Tormented by endless internal conflict, they cannot stand for life to exist. How could it be worse than that? Well, we must consider Orcus, the demon prince of undeath, the ruler of the layer of Thanatos in the abyss. If Demogorgon manages to obliterate everything, that would be utterly awful. But at least it would be over. Not with Orcus. He wants all the dead, the corpses and the souls, all of it, to be twisted into his undead dominion, all to serve him. If he were to succeed, the world and beyond would not be merely a mass graveyard, but a necropolis empire, a vast realm of necromantic bondage, eternal torment and suffering for all those who died, now forced to exist in a state that mocks and profanes all that is natural and good. Orcus himself appears rotten, as he is as rotten as it gets, a putrid giant with a ram-like skull head. Worse than even your soul being destroyed permanently and all the cosmos swallowed into nothingness is becoming the undead slave of Orcus for all of eternity. He represents the maximum amount of suffering possible for the longest amount of time possible in every dimension that a person can suffer. This is the limit. This is the bottom of it all. When it comes to evil, this is the heart, the concentrated essence of what evil is. I have to admit here that it actually bothers me to contemplate all this. And looking at these malevolent horrors and reaching the abyssal heart of it all, feeling its pulse, I have to say that I'm disturbed. If I were to let my imagination go, it would present me a showcase of horrors, all the specific graphic details of the atrocious acts that I merely generalized in my descriptions. It's revolting. but I've noticed two noteworthy things. First, part of what bothers me is that I know that I'm capable of committing evil acts. Even if I were to never reach the deepest levels of evil that we've seen here, it's like when I do something that's deceitful or untrue or harmful, I lead everyone a tiny step closer toward that abyssal heart at the bottom of all evil. I don't want that, but I'm human, and sooner or later I stumble or I let myself give into the darkness, which that leads me to the second thing that I've noticed. The dark side, or the shadow, has an allure to it. There is something about these journeys into the unknown that captures my attention. I feel a draw to dark things, strange things, to that which is dangerous and risky and unpredictable and scary. And I'm sure that everyone else feels this as well, to one degree or another. Well, if I take a clue from D&D, this all starts to make sense. I mean, it's right in the name of the game. You venture into the dungeon, that dark, unknown underworld of danger, and you face the dragon, that terrifying, deadly force of monstrous power. And if you go with as much courage as you can muster, and you call upon your trusted allies who will help you, and you pay attention, and you use all of your intelligence, all of your abilities, everything that you have to the best that you can, then you have a chance. You can defeat the monster. And when you do, you gain experience, you reach higher levels of being, you find knowledge and treasure, you find meaning and purpose, you free those who were held captive by the monster in that dark place. You see light doing battle with darkness. And that is so compelling. There's a real energy to that struggle, and there's a real hope for the light to win through against the all-consuming nightmare. I suppose that if I can channel my dark side through creative work and role-playing adventures, it becomes a constructive force, not a destructive one. I suppose that if I can create something that inspires other people or encourages them or helps them in some way, I see there is a reason to keep fighting against my inner demons, to not give in to them. Because as awful as evil can get, the glory of goodness rises even higher. Light always shines through the darkness. So I want to thank you, truly, thank you very much, not only for watching, but also thank you for being a community for me, a place where I can put my thoughts out there and people, you, are along with me on this never-ending series of exploration and discovery. So I give you my blessing. May you strive to face down the demons and overcome their vicious claws. And may your adventures be many.